My name is Claire Sutton. I'm 34 years old, and on a Sunday afternoon in September, I sat at my parents' kitchen table in Dayton, Ohio, looked at my mother and father across 17 years of being the daughter who handled things, the daughter who adjusted, the daughter who quietly absorbed whatever the family needed without being asked twice, and I said no. One word, two letters. The simplest sentence I had ever constructed and the hardest one I had ever delivered. My brother Derek needed $22,000 to cover a business debt that had come due faster than he'd planned. My parents had already given him everything they could. The house was mortgaged twice. The retirement account was depleted. There was nothing left. Except me. I had $22,000. Not easily, not carelessly. Saved over 6 years of working double shifts, declining vacations, driving a car with 200,000 miles on it, and saying no to myself every single month so that I would have something real when I needed it. My parents sat across from me and asked me to give it to Derek. And for the first time in 34 years, I said no. What happened next, what my parents said, what my brother did, and what my father told me 6 weeks later that I was not prepared to hear, is the story I'm about to tell you. Before I do, please like and subscribe if this speaks to you. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from tonight. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. To understand the no, you need to understand what came before it. My parents are good people. I want to say that clearly and mean it. Robert and Linda Sutton are not villains. They worked hard. They showed up. They kept the lights on through recessions and layoffs and a medical scare in 2014 that cost them 2 years of savings in 11 months. They loved us, both of us. They love us still. But love, in our house, was not distributed evenly. My brother Derek is 3 years older than I am, 37 now. He was the kind of child that parents describe as spirited when they mean difficult, and creative when they mean unreliable. He was also charming and funny, and had the specific gift of making my parents feel like whatever he needed was reasonable, normal, and temporary. Every crisis was temporary with Derek. The college he transferred out of twice was temporary. He just hadn't found the right fit. The car accident at 22 that cost my parents their emergency fund? Temporary. He'd pay them back when the insurance sorted out. The job he quit after 6 months was temporary because his boss was unreasonable. Something better was coming. Something better was always coming. Meanwhile, I was getting straight A's, working 20 hours through high school, paying my own application fees, winning a partial scholarship to Ohio State, and choosing accounting because I understood early that stability was something you built yourself. Nobody threw me a party for any of it. I'm not telling you this to be bitter. I processed the bitterness a long time ago in a therapist's office in Columbus across 3 years of carefully understanding the family I came from. I'm telling you because you need to understand the architecture. The roles were assigned early, and nobody ever questioned them. Derek was the one with potential. I was the one who was fine. Derek started his business in 2019, a home renovation contracting company. The idea was genuinely good. Dayton had a real market for residential renovation work. The timing was reasonable, and Derek had always been good with his hands in the way that talented people sometimes are without ever becoming disciplined. My parents gave him $15,000 to start. I'm not judging that decision. I understand it. He was their son, and it was his dream. And when someone you love has a dream, you want to water it. I lent him $3,000 of my own money in the first year because a supply order came due and he was short. He said he'd pay me back in 60 days. He never paid me back. I didn't push it. I told myself it was fine. I told myself that's what family does. That's the thing about being the one who is fine. You get so practiced at telling yourself things are fine that you stop noticing when they aren't. The business had good months and bad months, and then mostly bad months. Derek was talented at the work and terrible at the business. He underbid jobs, overpromised timelines, hired 2 employees he couldn't afford to pay consistently, and borrowed from suppliers against future invoices in ways that compounded faster than he tracked. By summer 2023, he owed $22,000 to a materials supplier who had extended credit for 18 months and was done extending. My parents found out when the supplier called the house. Derek had listed my father as a secondary contact. Of course he had. The Sunday dinner was my mother's idea. She called me on a Thursday. Her voice had that specific, careful quality it gets when she's managing something she doesn't know how to say directly. "Can you come on Sunday? We need to talk about Derek." I knew it was what I walked through the door. I had known for weeks that the business was in trouble. Derek had called me in August, circling it, not quite asking, telling me about the debt the way you tell someone about a problem when you want them to offer to solve it without you having to ask. I hadn't offered. I came to that Sunday dinner having already made my decision. I didn't know exactly how it would be asked. I didn't know exactly what would be said, but I knew what I was going to say. My mother made pot roast, the good kind, the one that takes all day, the kind she made when she wanted a meal to feel like home. We ate and talked about nothing important for 40 minutes. Derek was there, quiet in the way he gets when he's waiting for someone else to carry something heavy. My father sat at the head of the table with the expression he wears when he's rehearsed something. After the plates were cleared, my father folded his hands and looked at me. "We need to talk about your brother's situation," he said. I nodded. "The supplier debt is at the point where legal action is being discussed. $22,000. Your mother and I have looked at everything we have." He stopped. My mother picked up the thread. "We've already refinanced twice. The retirement account is—" She paused. "There isn't enough, Claire." I waited. My father looked me directly. "You've been careful with your money. We know that. We're proud of that. And we wouldn't ask if there was any other way." Derek was looking at the table. "We need to ask if you'd be willing to help your brother," my father said. $22,000. He'll pay you back. We'll make sure of it." The table was quiet. I looked at my father, at my mother, at Derek, who still hadn't looked up. I thought about the $3,000 he already owed me, the 60-day promise from 2020, 4 years ago. I thought about the vacation I didn't take in 2021, the car I didn't replace in 2022, the 6 years of discipline and calculation that had built those $22,000 one careful month at a time. I thought about what my father had just said. "We'll make sure of it." The same words, more or less, that had been said about every Derek crisis for 20 years. And I took a breath. And I said, "No." The silence lasted about 4 seconds. Then my mother said, "Claire?" Not a question. My name is a full sentence. The specific tone that means reconsider. "I'm not going to," I said. "I'm sorry. I love Derek, but I'm not going to give him $22,000. My father's expression shifted, not to anger immediately, first to confusion, like I had said something in a language he didn't expect. "It's not giving," he said. "It's a loan." "He already owes me $3,000 from 2020, I said. "I never asked for it back, but it was never paid." Derek looked up at that. His jaw tightened slightly. "That was a different situation," he said. "It was the same situation," I said. "A debt he needed covered, a promise to repay, no repayment." "Claire," my father's voice was firmer now, "your brother's business could close. His employees could lose their jobs. His credit—" "Dad," I kept my voice level, I understand what's at stake for Derek. I'm telling you what's at stake for me. That $22,000 is my emergency fund, my security. It took me 6 years to save it. If I give it to Derek, I don't have it anymore. And based on what's happened before, I don't believe I'll get it back. My mother made a sound. Not words, just a sound. So you're choosing money over family? Derek said. And there it was, the sentence that had been sitting under the whole dinner waiting to be said. I'm choosing myself, I said, which is something I haven't done very often. What happened next was the part I hadn't fully prepared for. My father stood up from the table. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood up, the way he does when he's decided something, and said, I'm very disappointed in you, Claire. He walked out of the kitchen. My mother looked at me for a long moment. Then she started clearing the dishes, quietly, the way she clears the dishes when she doesn't know what else to do with her hands. Derek pushed back from the table. Good to know where we stand. He left. 20 minutes later, I sat at my parents' kitchen table alone for a while. The pot roast smell was still in the air. The good plates were still on the counter. My father's chair was pushed out at an angle. I drove home. I did not cry until I was inside my apartment with the door closed. Then I cried for a long time, not because I had changed my mind, because being right and being hurt are not mutually exclusive, and I had somehow believed that doing the right thing for myself would feel cleaner than this. It didn't feel clean at all. It felt like a door closing, heavy and final, and mine. I need to pause here for a moment, because I know some of you are sitting somewhere right now with a version of this in your own family, a sibling, a parent, someone who has been drawing from the same account for years, not a bank account, but something more personal, your patience, your resources, your willingness to be the one who is fine. And maybe you've said no, or maybe you're thinking about it, or maybe the idea of it feels so impossible that you can't fully hold it in your mind with your chest going tight. Drop the word enough in the comments if you know what I mean. And stay with me, because what my father said 6 weeks later is the part of this story I didn't see coming. The 6 weeks were hard. My mother called twice. Both calls were short and careful, the way calls are when someone wants a connection but doesn't know how to reach across the thing that's between you. She asked about my work. I asked about her garden. We didn't mention Derek. We didn't mention Sunday dinner. Derek didn't call at all. My father didn't call either. I went to work. I paid my bills. I drove my 200,000-mile car, made my coffee at home, and did the specific quiet living that people do when they're holding something difficult and don't have anywhere to put it yet. I had one conversation that mattered during those 6 weeks. My college friend Dana, who had grown up in a family with similar dynamics, met me for dinner in week 2. She listened to the whole thing. At the end, she put down her fork and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "When you imagine the version of yourself that gave Derek the money, what does she look like in a year?" I thought about it. The same, except $22,000 poorer and still waiting. Dana nodded. "Then you already know," she said. I already knew. The hard part wasn't the decision. The hard part was sitting inside the consequences of it without the validation I hadn't realized I was waiting for. That validation came on a Saturday morning in late October, 6 weeks after Sunday dinner. My father called. He called at 9 a.m. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken since he walked out of the kitchen. I sat with the ringing phone in my hand for 3 rings. Then I answered. "Claire?" "Hi, Dad." A pause, long enough that I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "Can I come over?" He drove 40 minutes from Dayton to Columbus on a Saturday morning and sat in my apartment on the couch I'd bought secondhand and held a cup of coffee I'd made for him and looked at his hands for a moment before he looked at me. "I owe you an apology," he said. I waited. "I've been thinking about Sunday dinner for 6 weeks, about what you said, about the $3,000, about what I said to you when you said no. I told you I was disappointed in you. I did. I was wrong." The apartment was quiet. A Saturday morning in Columbus, traffic outside, someone's music is 2 floors down. "I've been thinking about something your mother said last week. She said, and I've been sitting with this since she said it, she said that we raised you to be responsible and then punished you for it." My throat tightened. "Your mother is smarter than I. She always has been." He set down his coffee cup. "Derek has had every chance, Claire. Every single one. Your mother and I gave him chances until we had nothing left to give. And when we ran out, we looked at you, at the one who never asked us for anything, and we asked you to cover the deficit. And when you said no, I called it disappointment." He shook his head. "That's not disappointment. That's not right. What you did took more courage than anything Derek has done with any chance we gave him." I didn't trust my voice for a moment. "What happened with the debt?" I said finally. Derek negotiated a payment plan with the supplier. 40 months. He had to let one employee go. The business is smaller now. Maybe that's what it needed to be. Is he angry with me? My father was quiet for a moment. "Derek is Derek," he said. "He'll come around. Or he won't. But that is not your responsibility to manage." He looked at me. "I should have said that to you a long time ago." I want to tell you what my mother did. Because this part matters too. 2 weeks after my father's visit, my mother called and asked if she could come for lunch. She arrived with a casserole she'd made that morning and a small envelope she set on my kitchen counter before we sat down. Inside the envelope was a check. $3,000. My mother's handwriting on the memo line. "What Derek owes you, from us." I looked at the check for a long time. "Mom, you don't have to—" "We do," she said. "We should have made him repay it in 2020. We should have made him accountable then. We kept making it easy for him not to be accountable, and we let that spill onto you." She sat across from me at my kitchen table, the way she had sat across from me at her kitchen table my entire life. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, "about what it cost you to grow up the way you did, not in material things, in the other things." I waited. "You stopped bringing us things to celebrate," she said. "At some point, you just stopped. Your promotions, your savings goals. I found out about your car reaching 200,000 miles because Dana mentioned it at Easter. You'd been driving that car for 11 years, and you never told us because you didn't expect us to care." She said it plainly, without drama. The specific directness of a woman who has been sitting with a truth for a while and finally knows how to say it. "We cared," she said. "We just weren't paying the right kind of attention." I put the check in my wallet. We ate the casserole. We talked about my work, her garden, my father's back, and the way the neighborhood had changed since I was small. It was the most ordinary lunch we had ever had. It was the best one. Derek and I talked in November. He called on a weeknight. He didn't apologize exactly. Derek doesn't apologize exactly. It's just how he's built. But he said something that was, for him, close. "I know you've been carrying things I didn't see," he said. "I'm not good at seeing that." "I know," I said. "I'm going to pay back the $3,000. "Mom and Dad already—" "No, I'll pay them back, and I'll pay you back. It should come from me." He has paid back $600 so far. $25 a week, direct deposit, every Thursday. It has not missed a Thursday in 4 months. I don't know if it will continue. I don't know if the business will survive. I don't know what version of Derek exists on the other side of this crisis, and whether that version has learned anything the previous versions hadn't. What I know is that he's trying in a way that looks different from before. Maybe that's enough for now. Maybe it isn't. Either way, it's not mine to carry. Here is what I know now that I didn't know before that Sunday dinner. Saying no to someone you love is not the same as not loving them. I know that sounds simple. It isn't. Not when the no lands in a room where someone stands up and tells you they're disappointed. Not when the silence afterwards has the specific weight of disapproval from the people whose approval you've been quietly seeking your entire life. But here is what the no did. It told my parents the truth about what had been happening for 34 years, not with an accusation, not with a speech, just with a boundary that reflected the reality they hadn't been looking at clearly. My mother said we weren't paying the right kind of attention. The no made them pay it. That's not manipulation. That's not a strategy. That's just what happens when you stop making it easy for the people you love to overlook you. They see you. I want to ask you something before I go. My parents are good people who made a common mistake. They looked at 2 children and saw one that needed more help and one that didn't need any help, and they organized their love and resources accordingly, year after year, until the one that didn't need anything had quietly built a life specifically designed to need nothing from them. And when they finally looked at that life and said, "Wait, we need something from you," I said, "No." And it broke something open. So here is my question. When a family system is built around one person's needs for long enough, when the roles are that established, that practiced, does it take a crisis to reorganize it? Or is there a version of this where someone tells the truth earlier and the whole thing shifts without a Sunday dinner and a father walking out and 6 weeks of silence? I don't know the answer. I think about it often. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been the one who was fine in your family? The one who was expected to adjust, absorb, and accommodate? Tell me what that cost you. I read every single one. And if you're sitting somewhere tonight holding a no that you haven't said yet, I want you to know something. The no is not the end of the relationship. Sometimes it's the beginning of an honest one. My father drove 40 minutes on a Saturday morning to sit on my second-hand couch and tell me my mother was right. That happened because I said no. My mother brought me a casserole and a check and said we weren't paying the right kind of attention. That happened because I said no. Derek deposits $25 every Thursday. That is happening because I said no. The no was not the end of my family. It was the first time I told them who I actually was. And they surprised me. That's the part I didn't see coming. That's the part I'm still sitting with. Subscribe, because next week I'm sharing what happened when Derek's business got its first big contract and the phone call he made to me when it came through.